Hey yo, what's up everybody? It's Ryan Miller checking in with GST's YQMA. Today we go through episode number 42 and we talk about cardio while bulking. So without further ado, let's get into the bulk of it and talk about cardio. The reason that today's question is even a question is really stemming from the fact that there's a generally accepted preconceived notion about what bulking is really all about. Usually when somebody uses the term bulking, what you think is, all right, no cardio, eat as much as possible, gain as much weight as possible in as little time as possible. Now, as you can see, there's a lot of extremes there, and I'm not a fan of extremes when it comes to training or nutrition because usually the more extreme or aggressive an approach is in the gym or the kitchen, the more problems you run into quicker. So bulking to me is a time to grow, and it's a time to grow at an ideal rate. This doesn't mean to pile on as much weight as possible or get on that seafood diet where you eat anything you see. The goal with bulking is to be conservative. It's really to eat as much as possible while making progress at an ideal rate. Cardio is something that often gets tossed aside as soon as that person decides to flip that switch from cutting to bulking. And this is actually something that I don't recommend doing. I recommend doing cardio during a contest prep, during a general personal fat loss phase, during a maintenance phase, and during a building or bulking phase. Cardio has benefits in the weight room, not to mention it benefits your general health. So one thing that you need to keep in mind is that when you're bulking and building, the ultimate goal is to be able to train as hard as possible with weights. You want to use weights because those help your muscles grow. And if you can get the most out of every weight training session by using cardio's benefits, then you should really be doing that. You shouldn't be pushing cardio aside and just neglecting the fact that it does help you. So the next topic is how much cardio should you be doing when you're bulking or building? Obviously, this is going to be a little bit dependent on the individual and what their goals are. Some people are trying to gain muscle while they're trying to train for a 10K race or a triathlon. Now, that's not the average person. I believe that the average person is bulking just to try and gain muscle. That's really the target audience that we're going for here. And I believe that I'm probably speaking to people mainly that fall into this demographic. So when you're doing a general bulk and your goal is to gain size, you don't care about doing an endurance event or anything like that, cardio one to two times per week is going to be great. Now, what type of cardio? I don't recommend doing high intensity interval training on a frequent basis during bulking because when it's done truly the way that it's supposed to be done, HIIT or high intensity interval training is an activity that is going to produce stress to your muscles, your joints, and your tendons. Now, this is important because stress requires recovery. And when you're trying to grow, what you need to make sure you're doing is that you're recovering adequately between weight training sessions. So if you're doing so much in high intensity interval training that you're actually reducing your body's ability to recover between those weight training sessions, that becomes a problem, and too much HIIT is going to actually hurt your weight room performance. Now, I said cardio helps your weight training performance, and that's true, but it begins to hurt it if you're doing too much of it. Like I said earlier, that's where we get into that aggressive approach, and aggressive approaches, in this case being doing too much cardio, they tend to lead to negative effects, and whether that's in the gym or the kitchen. This is an example of how aggressive cardio approaches can lead to negative weight training effects. Now, when I'm talking about HIIT, I'm talking about a short session, usually around 20 to 25 minutes in length. Usually it's going to be around 5 to 7 high intensity intervals, and each interval is actually going to be under a minute. Generally, if you're going really hard with an activity, say like sprinting or sled pulling, something of that really intense nature, you're only going to be able to last around 15 to 20 seconds tops. When somebody is going 100% all out, all cylinders, pedal to the metal, they're not going to be able to last that long, especially with the right activity. And usually with activities that are awesome for interval training, you really only find that you're going to be able to last 15 to 20 seconds. Now, if you're doing something like jumping rope, jumping jacks, barbell complexes, you might be able to last for more like a minute straight before that heart rate gets jumped up to that 90 to 95% of your max heart rate. Now, I do have another video on HIIT, and I'm going to link to it in the description box below. I talk about the HIIT mindset, and you'll definitely want to watch that if you're going to start doing high intensity interval training. But generally, for this video's purposes and the 1 time per week HIIT during a bulk, I'm talking about 20 to 30 minutes, usually 5 to 7 intervals, maximum 1 minute per interval, and then generally anywhere from 2 to 4 minutes rest, active rest like walking around between each interval. And so you can see the time adds up to around 25-30 minutes. Now, there's nothing wrong with doing lower intensity cardio during your bulk either, because that is an activity that is going to generally improve your health, and it's going to keep you active, which is great mentally. You're not going to be lifting weights every single day, and you're also not going to be filling every single off day with high intensity interval training cardio. So if you are the type of person that likes to be moving at least once a day and likes to stay active every day throughout the week, low intensity steady state cardio or even medium intensity steady state cardio, they're going to be great friends of yours during your building phase, because you're going to have off days, and if you want to stay mentally in the game and you feel like you have to do something, then you want to choose an activity that's low stress and it's not going to hinder your recovery between weight training sessions. That's crucial. And these activities can be low intensity steady state cardio, which is just a general walk or a bike ride, aiming to keep your heart rate around that 60 to 65% of your max or your theoretical max heart rate. Now, any length will work here. I mean, if you need to go out and you're satisfied by 25 to 30 minutes, that's not a problem. If you need a little more time, maybe you really just like to go out and walk. It's a nice time to clear your head, think. If you want to take up to an hour, go for it. It's a low intensity activity, so you're not doing damage to your body, and the mental benefits of it are far going to outweigh any negative physical effects. Now, medium intensity cardio, it's a little more intense, obviously. You're trying to keep your heart rate around 70 to 80% of your theoretical max. And this is also an activity that it's still low stress, because this would just be an activity like maybe a brisk walk or a bike ride with a little more intensity, a little more speed to it. Overall, it's not near as intense as interval training. It's not near as intense as your weight training, and it really shouldn't prevent your body from recovering between those weight training sessions, which is so important to remember. So if you want to throw in 1 HIIT and 1 LISS or 1 miss session per week on top of your weight training, as long as you are eating enough calories to stay in that calorie surplus when you factor in the added calorie burn of your twice weekly cardio, 1 HIIT and 1 LISS or miss session, you should be totally fine. And that's basically what I recommend as general advice to somebody that is trying to stay in great health, trying to maximize and improve their performance in the weight room, and is trying to grow muscle during a bulking phase or a period of them being in a calorie surplus. 1 HIIT session per week and either 1 low intensity steady state cardio or medium intensity steady state cardio is going to be great for you. Start there, adjust as needed. If you find that you're not recovering between your normally scheduled weight training sessions, try taking out the HIIT first, because that might be the culprit, and just stick with the low intensity or the medium intensity cardio, see how that goes. Now you could also just take out the low or medium intensity steady state cardio first if you really like your HIIT. The point is that there's multiple ways to go about this, but in general, bulking or building is not a time where you throw cardio out the window. So I want you to remember that, and that's the main take home for this GST's YQMA episode number 42. If you do have follow-up questions on this topic, email me personally at ryan@growthstimulustraining.com. You can text me the basic questions at 919-671-8585. And you can also comment on this YouTube video or message me through Facebook. Thank you again for watching. I hope you really enjoy the rest of your Thursday night. I hope you gained some knowledge from this video. Please subscribe, and as always, I appreciate your views.